Today we're going to talk about the 8 consciousnesses. In the consciousness-only school of Buddhism, its main theory is that everything is created from the consciousness, hence the word consciousness-only school. This means everything is based upon the coming into being and the ceasing to be of the consciousness. Therefore, it's impermanent, it's conditioned, and unreal. By knowing what is unreal, then we can discover what is real, which is our originally pure, bright, enlightened mind. Today we will use verses from the verses delineating the 8 consciousnesses. First, let's have an overview of the 8 consciousnesses. The first 5 consciousnesses are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. These 5 are in direct contact with the external world. Then we have the 6th consciousness, that is our thinking mind, that conceptualizes everything. We also have the 7th consciousness, the ego consciousness, that only think about the self, and it grabs onto the 8th consciousness, the storehouse of the self. So that's how our 8 consciousnesses work together. Now let's look at them in detail. It's divided up into 4 sections. The first 5 consciousnesses are together, then the 6th consciousness, the 7th consciousness, and the 8th consciousness are divided up separately. Now let's first talk about the first 5 consciousnesses. All 5 consciousnesses rely on their own pure form organs. Because they are in contact with the external world, they must have organs. There are 2 kinds of sensory organs. One is the visible, physical organs. The second type is the pure form organs. That's our neural pathways, or something that is not visible. We usually use the example of the flower pot. The pot outside is the visible physical organs. The soil inside is the pure form organs. And the flower growing out of it, that's our consciousness. So without the soil, there won't be any flowers. There won't be any consciousness working. So that's why we have to have the pure form organs. Furthermore, they require 9, 8, or 7 conditions working together as neighbors. In order for us to see the world, we actually need 9 preconditions. The first one is we need to have distance. If you look at something this close, you won't be able to see anything. 2, we need lights. Without lights, we cannot see. 3, we need the organs, like we said above. Number 4, we need to have an object, the thing that we want to look at. Then we also need attention to focus our consciousness on the object. Then we have the 6th consciousness, the basis of discrimination. The 7th consciousness, the basis of defilement and purity. And the 8th consciousness, the fundamental basis. And number 9, we need the seeds, the karmic seeds of the consciousness in order for the consciousness to arrive. So we need all 9 conditions in order for us to see one object. It actually requires a lot for us to be able to see. And in order for us to hear, we need 8 conditions. We subtract the lights because we don't need lights to hear. And for our nose, tongue, and body, we subtract light and distance because they are in direct contact with the object of our smell, taste, and touch. So as you can see, we need a lot of conditions working together like neighbors in order for us to be in contact with the external world. Why do we need to know this? If we understand how our consciousness works, then we'll be able to know what we're seeing is not real. It's all based on conditions. For example, if we are afraid of heights, you're walking on the glass bridge, you know you're protected and you won't fall. But by looking down, your legs start shaking. That's because your eyes is tricking you. By understanding how our consciousness works, then we won't be afraid of height anymore. So this conscious-only school of Buddhism is actually the psychology of Buddhism that will help us overcome a lot of our emotions. Now let's look at our 6th consciousness. in physical action and in speech. It is the most important. Our sixth consciousness, that's how we create karma. It has a lot of karma generating power because it directs our body to take action and our mouth to make speech. So that's how we make our wholesome and unwholesome deeds. That's why it has the ability to summon forth the power of karma that leads to rebirth and retribution. There's two kinds of karma. The first is summoning karma. It brings us to the realm of rebirth. For example, the heavenly realm or the human realm or the hungry ghost realm. So that's a major karma. Number two, we have the retribution karma, which is the lesser degree. Once you're reborn in that realm, the retribution can be very different. For example, in the animal realm, if you're a stray dog, you might have a very difficult life, but if you are in the $1 million home, you might have a lot of servants taking care of you. So your retribution might be very different, even you're both in the animal realm. So use our sixth consciousness wisely to cultivate all the goodness and eradicate all our bad deeds. When Buddha was around, one day there was a young girl sweeping the front courtyard of her house. Buddha passed by with the Sangha. This girl saw Buddha. She felt a great sense of joy and elation, and she was gazing upon Buddha in awe and admiration. Because of this good deed, after she passed away, she was reborn in the heavenly realm. She knew that it was because of this one good deed she was reborn there, so she came back to thank Buddha. Buddha expounded Dharma to her, and she actually became enlightened and obtained arhatship. So from this one good thought of being joyful, seeing Buddha, that created a lot of great positive karma for her. So use our sixth consciousness wisely. Now let's look at the seventh consciousness. It continuously follows and grasps the object of the self. The seventh consciousness, it doesn't come in contact with the external world. It only tells the sixth consciousness what to think based on the self, and it just attached to the eighth consciousness as the self. So it has four strong innate afflictions. Number one, it has the self-delusion. It doesn't understand that we are the pure enlightened mind. So it keeps attaching to the self as a real personhood. That's why it's an ignorance and delusion. Number two, we have view of the self. Our view of the self becomes very stubborn and very strong, and we are full of this ego. Then we have number three, our self-conceit. We become very arrogant. We compete, compare, and be jealous of others. Number four, we have self-love. We love the self and we do everything to benefit the self. Even if you're born as a fish in a tank, the fishes will fight over territories. The same kind of fish will get together and fight against the other group. So everyone is attached to the sense of the self. That's why we keep reincarnating. So day and night, it induces the state of dreaming and confusion in living beings. Because of this consciousness, day and night, we are reduced to the state of dreaming and confusion. If you ever notice, in your dream, you're always the main character because we're so full of the self. That's due to our seventh consciousness. The eighth consciousness, it undergoes perfuming and contains the seeds of organs, body, and the environment. The eighth consciousness have two major jobs. The first, it undergoes perfuming. Whatever the first seven consciousness does, it perfumes and permeates the eighth consciousness. The eighth consciousness doesn't produce any karma. It's all produced by the first seven consciousnesses and stores them. So the eighth consciousness is constantly being permeated and influenced by the first seven consciousnesses. Number two, it contains the karmic seeds of everything. So everything we ever done or seen is all accumulated as karmic seeds in the storehouse. So it's a big warehouse that stores all our karma. When the conditions are right, the seeds ripen into results. The result is our organs, our body, and the environment, basically the entire material world. So the entire world is created by our own alaya consciousness. That's the truth, the reality of the universe. Furthermore, it is the one who comes first and leaves last, being truly a master of the house. When we pass away, it is the last one to leave this body. Even though we are medically pronounced dead, the 8 consciousness still lingers on for 8 hours or even up to 36 hours. That's why we have to have people that help you chant Aum Tofo even after your last breath, because the 8 consciousness is still there. When we take rebirth, it is the first one to get into the mother's womb because it's the first one to come in. So this 8 consciousness is what carries us throughout our reincarnation and through samsara. So this is our life. By understanding this, we actually can learn a lot. First, we need to know that karma and reincarnation is real. We have to use our consciousness to cultivate goodness and eradicate our bad deeds. Number 2, we need to know these 8 consciousness is all conditioned. None of it is me as we perceive. This is not the real me. The thinking mind, everything is not the real me. The real me is actually the originally pure, bright, enlightened mind. That's who we really are. So by understanding what is unreal, we can go back to what is real. We want to be apart from the heart, the mind, and the consciousness. We usually call the 8 consciousness the heart, the 7 consciousness the mind, and the 6 consciousness the consciousness. So we actually want to be apart from the heart, the mind, and the consciousness. That's how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be living in our originally pure, bright, enlightened mind. So that's the class for today. Thank you for listening. Amitabha.